about that?
Oh my gosh. My husband was driving and we were driving back from San Francisco, and I had talked to 4 of the IANDS groups in San Francisco, and I was reclining back in my seat of our van, and my husband was driving along, and we came, the highway comes from inland and it curves and turns and starts following the coastline down to Santa Barbara. It's called the Gaviota coastline. And when we got to that location, there were these big gusts of wind, and this one gust of wind, my husband was just struggling to keep the car under control. And so I said, Victor, could you, maybe we should slow down because it looks like we're, in danger here. And he said, yes, okay, great. And he slowed down to 50. And about, maybe 5 minutes later, I was thinking that we were safe, and I was just looking out the window at the ocean and the moon, and everything was about 9:30 at night. And all of a sudden, in my right-hand ear, this voice said, danger, big impact ahead, danger, big impact. And I sat upright in my seat, and I talked to my husband and told him what I just heard, and he knows that I have this help all the time. And so I said, why don't we slow down to 30? And he said, but what happens if someone catches up to us? And I said, well, then if you feel that somebody's coming up behind us, and there's nobody behind us now, but if you feel there's a danger, speed back up to 50. But I said, we should really be slow so we can react to whatever it is that's ahead of us. This was miles before we got to the semi-truck.
Oh, and my. That's amazing.
We ended up being, told at the very end, just before we got to the semi-truck, whoever it was that was helping me grabbed both of my upper arms and screamed 10 miles an hour. And I literally felt them nose to nose with me.
Oh, my.
I responded by telling Victor 10 miles an hour, and he slowed down. And just after we passed this one location there was actually a police car that stopped. The police had sent someone way ahead. The reason why no one had ever caught up to us was because they'd closed the freeway behind us. We were between the CHP, California Highway Patrol's closure, and the semi-truck. So the CHP officer was standing up on the side of the overturned truck talking to the truck driver who was trapped in the cab. And because we were only doing 10 miles an hour by the time we got to the truck, we were able to go off the side of the road and around the front of the cab and completely avoid hitting it. So,
isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, I was just thanking the other side. I was just thanking and saying thank you so much for saving us and the truck driver and the police officer and for intervening in this situation. And I'm here to help you and whatever you'd like me to do. And when you want me to come home, I'm ready to go home.
Yes.
But it's hard for my husband sometimes because he's like, watches that unfold and he goes, Barbara, how did that just happen?
Right.
And I said, Victor, it's the other side helping, and you just have to remember they're there. And if you believe and you listen, they're ready to help. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome stuff.
Everyone, you need to understand that everyone who is in a body has usually more than one spirit guides.
Absolutely.
That was her spirit guide who was making sure she would be safe. Yep. So if you hear a voice, if you even get a feeling that something, pay attention to it, because we plan these lifetimes, and our guides love us. They're usually an eternal friend, and they very much want to make sure we're safe. But if we don't pay attention to them, they can't help us. So,
and it wasn't my time to go then. I had
other
work to do, and that's why they were keeping that situation from being the end of my life, because that wasn't the plan.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I hadn't heard that story. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I do hear all the time from people who have had these experiences and they don't understand them. And it's wonderful, frankly, to be able to explain to them just what happened to you and how extraordinary it is. That's the real tragedy for all of us, which I think near-death experiences, because there's so many of them and they're becoming so well known, are helping to alleviate. But most people have no idea, as you pointed out, that most of reality is not even material.
Right,
and
exactly.
we're part of that greater reality right now.
Yep. And it's interesting because, manifestation is a piece of that. When you really seriously want something in your life, whether it be a loved one that you want to bring in, whether you have a particular job that you want to do, if you use your energy and manifest and clearly outline what it is that you're hoping to do or you're hoping to bring into your life, I have proven that works amazingly.
Yes, it
because
does.
they want to help you get that situation going in your life. And so when you seriously, that's how I got my husband that I'm married to for the last 25 years.
He's a wonderful man, I should say. Just wonderful. Very tall, though.
7 foot, yeah.
He's a little bit tall. But he's beautiful. Is his health better? Is he feeling better?
He's doing great. Yeah, he has cancer, but I know I was brought into his life to help him with my understanding of death and my understanding of manifestation and thinking positively and, loving your life and loving the other side and being thankful. It's lit up his life as much as he's lit up my life. So I had 206 things that I put down on a list of character traits before I met him. And when my son brought his daughter over to our house, they wanted us to go to the movies with them. I realized I was being set up, and I was kind of mad at my son because I hadn't dated anybody for a couple of years, and I wasn't really ready to trust yet. And, it was amazing how my son was used to bring the two of us together and his daughter, and we're now a family, and we've been together for a long, long time. And it was amazing to watch how it all unfolded. But it all started with 206 things that I put on that list. Yeah,
you're kind of demanding, aren't you? That's a little bit. I never, my thoughts were pretty a lot more basic. When, of course, I've been married since God was a child. But this is a wonderful thing you're doing, though, because what you're doing is teaching people things which even now they would have a lot of trouble learning. So how can people, if you live in California, I really recommend you check out the Santa Barbara IANDS group, because, as I say, they're wonderful people, and there are a lot of them, too. You usually get quite a few people at your meeting.
Yeah, we have over 100 that usually show up at every meeting, and when we had major speakers coming, like Dr. Eben Alexander he wrote the book Proof of Heaven, we had 900 people. We had to have a bigger venue. And when we had Anita Moorjani here, we had 400 people. And Jeff Olson, again, another 400. And so he wasn't really known at that time. I think if we are bringing him back in 2019, and I believe it's going to be a huge group like the 900 that came for Eben Alexander.
Wonderful. Yeah,
so
that is
come
really
from far
great.
Away. Yeah, from all
What's the website? We'll say it again in a bit, but what is the website if people are interested in learning more about your group?
Well, I don't have a website specifically. I have a Facebook page that's called IANDS Santa Barbara. Okay. And they can go on Facebook and check me out. But I refer everyone to the IANDS website, which is www.IAND, as in David, S as in Sam.org. And that's the main website for all the IANDS groups across the U.S. And it's got amazing information, everything from the characteristics of an NDE to NDE facts and what is an NDE, common after effects, the science that's being done on NDE, research. Everything you'd ever wanted to know is either at www.iands.org or it is at www.nderf.org. Those are two fabulous websites.
And you don't have to be someone who's had an NDE or an extraordinary experience to want to go and benefit. Yeah. No, most people haven't had these, but I know whenever I have spoken at your group, I think I got 200 people, though. That was pretty much a lot.
Yeah, you were 200 when you came. That's right. Exactly.
But you'll love these people. People who have had extraordinary experiences very often are of a type. They're loving. They're sort of softer people. They're more open people. They're kinder. Don't you feel that? They've opened their hearts, and you sort of can be part of their heart as you even get to talking to them. It's striking to me. Whenever I have spoken before in IANDS group, I've always had that sense. These people are different, and they're different in a way you want the world to be different. So
we wish that, I kind of like, I think, I wish everyone could have an NDE, but, that's not going to probably happen. But,
no.
we really feel that love and caring about others and doing good things is what we want to focus our life on, because we know about that life review that so many NDEs experience. It's those 20% that have that extended experience, that see the tunnel and see the, spiritual beings, and they have a life review oftentimes. Like I had the one where just the pieces of my life that I needed to look at where the abuse was occurring, that was shown to me. But mostly these life reviews are showing us how we did in dealing with and caring for and loving others in our life. And, we don't have other people judging us during that life review. We're looking at our life saying, oh, wow, I did great there, or, oh, I could have done better there. I could have, said this or done that. And so it's a learning experience, that life review. But I always evaluate my life in what I can do to touch someone else and have them, have me see in my life review that I touched them in a lovely way and contributed towards their life. So that's, I think, what most NDEs are focusing towards. And we can't help everybody out there in the world, and we can't change political situations, but, we can touch someone nearby, and we can open a door for someone, and we can be loving towards someone we see that's having a problem. So that's what we do.
Yes, and it makes all the difference in the world when you really get the fact that your mind is eternal. Actually, our minds are so eternal. We have always existed. We always will exist, and we cannot die. When you really get that, it does change everything, because you do start to think, well, the way I live now is probably, and it does in fact, influence the quality of my real life when I finally go home. Yes. I think that's why it's so important what you're doing, because you're helping people to understand that their minds really do survive whatever happens to their bodies, and their minds are eternal. Yeah. So the work you're doing is certainly God's work. That's great.
Oh, thank you. Well, it just feels like it's my purpose. When I got back off the ceiling and was down on my body again, I wish I would have known it. But at that time I couldn't have gone towards it because I didn't have the support system. I had to, of course, go through the divorce. And I had to find the new person, and I had to do that 206 things on the list. And then I had to have that person see the things that had happened in my life in front of them that showed him, because, he had no experience with anything like this. And he had to learn to trust me with what he watched unfold in my life and how things happened. And so once I had the support system, then it just got bigger and bigger. And then I really realized, wow, I am serving the purpose that I came here to do. This was what I was expected to do and what I planned to do. So I love talking about it. And I'll go anywhere, and I'll talk to one person. I'll talk to 5,000. I have no fear at all about doing this, because I realize it is my purpose.
Isn't that an extraordinary thing?
Yeah.
Everyone, when you find what it is that you were perfectly designed, just like the perfect tool to do in your life, I think it makes all the difference. And I didn't find it until I was in my 60s.
Yeah. I was in probably my late 50s when I finally figured it out. And, all the things I also see, interestingly, that things that I did in my earlier life actually contributed to helping me get to the point where I am right now, where I am not afraid to talk in front of any size audience or on podcasts or documentaries or whatever. It literally, the things that I did in my life that were put in front of me, and some of them were pretty amazing experiences, like with that business that I had here in Santa Barbara. When I left the university and I started a business, I was told to do that business. I had no background in that business, but I was told to do it. And within 6 hours of hearing that I was told to do it, I was given a loan by the bank, because I was guided and told to go to the bank to do it. And I literally opened this store within 3 months of hearing that I was supposed to do it, and then I was named Businesswoman of the Year for this area. It gave me credibility. It gave me,
gravitas, right?
Yeah, to talk with people and have this experience where people came in, and a lot of women were capturing parts of their lives that maybe the loss of a child that had, died of infant crib death. We had, women that were creating a scrapbook to honor their mother that died, their father that died, or their brother, or, and it was this beautiful, wonderful experience of having that store, that helped me to move into being strong enough to talk about my near-death experience. So all of it is amazing.
We are living our lives on the ground. We do not have that eagle's eye view of what's happening in our lives. And very often we can look back only in retrospect and see that something that happened a long time ago is very, very important in our lives.
Yep.
Well, this has been a wonderful experience. Thank you so much for being